into the room. You're free to just be you. Tell me your story, and we will go exploring. Let's explore together.
Hello, and welcome to Sack in the City. I'm your host, Teresa Marie. Approximately 2.3 million people in the United States have been incarcerated at some point of their lives. Here, joining us today to speak about this subject and his personal experience is Joseph. Joseph, welcome to Sack in the City. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Joseph, you were in state prison, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your sentence?
My sentence was 16 years to life. I was sentenced for a murder second degree with a street gang enhancement, and 1 year added to that, which was for the street gang enhancement.
Okay, so because you were affiliated with a gang, you got an extra year? Is that correct?
Yeah, because it was gang related.
Okay. Now you say second degree murder.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that you yourself carried out a second degree murder?
Well, no, we were all charged with second degree murder, but I was actually charged with aiding and abetting a second degree murder.
Can you elaborate a little bit for us on what the aiding and abetting means in a second degree murder?
Aiding and abetting means promoting what took place, doing nothing to stop it.
I see. Okay. And then after this transpired, you did not call the authorities either, is that correct?
No, we fled the scene and we were arrested shortly after. Our car was identified and they blocked the highway and arrested us with a felony stop.
There are some people that are going to watch this that immediately hear that and they're thinking, Teresa, what the heck are you doing talking to somebody who is in state prison? You should be afraid. How do you feel about that?
Well, no, I mean that's quite common. That whole stigma that comes with that. But it's not so much for me. Basically, I have a speech impediment, so sometimes I stutter. But
that's okay. Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And but no, it's quite understandable. For me, what I try to do is compensate for that because I do meet a lot of people, and when they do hear about me being sentenced, you know, it's like for example, I used to have tattoos on my face, my eye, my ear, both sides of my neck, the back of my neck. Had them all removed by laser.
Oh wow!
Because that's not who I am today. And
I gotta say, they did a really good job.
Yeah, it's like 4 sessions that I've had so far,
Can't even tell.
It's quite painful, but it's worth it.
I've heard that it's quite painful, and I'm sure on your face, you set up in this region.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that'd be a little sensitive.
And for me, it's like I understand this, and I try to compensate for that because that's not who, you know. For one, like people can't really tell I was in prison from appearance from what I've gathered.
Sure.
But at the same time, I try not to show anything that's gonna make them think, was this guy in prison? So you know, for me, it starts from changing from within.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And just for the record, I want to say that no, I'm not afraid whatsoever. Joseph is a lovely man, and that's exactly why we invited him to talk about his story on Sack in the City. But I did want to put that out there because there are some people, and that is unfortunately a thought that people have. And so that's something that I kind of wanted to get out there right away. So thank you very much. So how old were you when you were sentenced to the 16 years to life?
Well, I was arrested at the age of 19 for the life crime, and
Wow.
I was sentenced at the age of 20.
Wow. Okay. Did you plead guilty?
No, I went before a jury of my own peers, and I was found guilty on all counts.
Okay. Okay. So in between that time of being arrested and the trial, you were
Incarcerated.
being held.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's no bail.
Okay. Now, before that, did you have a criminal history?
Yeah, as a juvenile, I was arrested twice. Once for a DUI high-speed chase.
Wow.
At the age of 17, and then again for felony witness intimidation, threatening the life of a person who's supposed to testify against a fellow gang member, and that was the extent of like my criminal that I was arrested for. But
How much time did you do for the intimidation?
Well, it was basically the person didn't want to testify against me, but because it was all gang related, and I took a deal for that, and I did like 3 weekends in juvenile hall, 100 hours community service, $500 fine. And this is a while back, and that was it for that.
Wow. Whew. So, you're 19. You get arrested in aiding and abetting on a second-degree murder. You are sentenced to 16 years to life. Now, I know that this was years ago, but do you recall how you felt your first few days in prison? What were you feeling? What were your emotions?
Okay. I arrived at San Quentin June 4th of 1992. I'm 20 years old. And for me, it was, like I say, it was a whole different world, because I was a different person. But the reason I stress different person, because my mindset is like in gangs. That's like our a university for us. That's what prisons are for the most part. And I was like, even though it was a whole new environment, I was quite at home in a sense. So I remember when I was just walking on the yard, it's like, for me, I was young and dumb. It sounds stupid to me today, but
Right.
It's like I arrived.
So, were you afraid?
No,
You weren't.
no.
You, like you said, it was like a university for you. You arrived, almost like a graduation day, if you will. Did it hit you immediately that you were in, but you weren't going anywhere for a long time?
Yeah, it hit me when I was sentenced, but at the same time, I got acceptance of that, because that's basically what I sought out. And for me, it was like I had no fear when I was in prison, because before I was turned the age of 18, I'd already been shot 3 times. I've already been shot at 9 times. I've already been in several altercations. I mean, that were life-threatening and so forth.
You were shot 3 times?
Yes,
You were shot at
9 times.
9 times. I mean, decent odds. Oh my goodness gracious! Did you almost lose your life?
Well, yeah. Those times were
Being shot 3 times,
were-
sounds a little life-threatening.
I remember one time a bullet just kept going. I assume right by my head. It sounded like a bee, like a wasp. But at the same time, it's like
One of those times you kind of wish it was a wasp. Right?
Yeah, but the adrenaline, everything just kicked in, and like I said, you go in a whole different mode. And
I'm sorry, how old were you when you were shot?
I was 17.
Same age as you were when you got a DUI high-speed chase.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. So you were, forgive the expression, but a little well-seasoned, you could say, before you got your sentencing. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, my hometown is in Santa Cruz County.
Okay.
And it's in the Monterey Bay. And it's a crazy. It's the way I can put it is like it's like growing up in South Sac.
Okay.
Today, like in Oak Park. It gets real crazy. There's murders, and it's a whole different world.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm sure that had an influence on you.
Yeah.
So you said that going in, you weren't initially afraid. You felt that it was a university, that you had arrived. However, you were there for a while. So I'm sure it wasn't all easy. What was the toughest part?
The toughest part for me, which actually became like my saving grace in many ways, was when I went in, I was married. I had 2 kids. And
At 20?
At the age of 20, yeah. My daughter was
Or
born
19, because when you initially got arrested, yeah.
And my daughter was born when I was 18, and I was there to cut the cord and everything at the hospital. Then my son, he was born 2 months after I was locked up.
Oh, goodness.
So for me, it was like when I was locked up, it's receiving letters pictures and so forth, and it just it just gave me. If I felt shame because I know where I should be,
Right.
but at the same time I couldn't control that because of the situation I was in,
Right.
and but at the same time it was like I knew there was more to life than what I was living at that
Sure.
time.
So it was kind of a lifeline, if you will, that maybe
Yeah.
gave you some hope. At the same token, feeling that remorse because you'd rather be at the family barbecue, obviously. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was the only way I can describe it for me personally is it's a sense of humanity, because that's everything that was right,
Right.
for me,
Right. That's certainly understandable for sure.
considering where I was at.
There are now, you got sentenced to a state prison, 20 years old. Whew. I'm going to probably do that a couple times during the interview. Whew. There is a belief in our society that, prison rape
Yeah.
goes on, of course, never talked about, because you spent, a good amount of
22
time,
years, yeah.
locked up.
22 years.
22 years. Did you ever see that on your watch as far as prison rape? Is that something that was prominent, or can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, no, I could talk about it. Personally, for me, it was I was like, I've never seen anything like that. And the prison yards I was on, they were always well, it's different for, I guess, different races and so forth. Because that's when you go to prison, that's what it comes down to.
Okay.
What race you are, what gang, and so forth. And
Like you kind of have to, you kind of get maybe put into a category.
yeah,
so to
yeah,
speak? For sure.
you get classified.
For sure you do.
As soon as you
Okay.
go in, as soon as you enter there. And rape, I mean, I've never seen it, and at the same time, there's none of us that would ever tolerate it. That type of thing. I mean, I watch movies and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure it happens. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's like for the groups of gangs as far as Mexican Americans in prison. It's the whole thing of machismo, and that's a form of homosexuality which is not tolerated in prison as far as like in gangs, because that's a reflection upon the gang.
Okay.
But I mean, I have nothing against people that are gay and so forth. But
Sure. So, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying that then in the Mexican culture, in the Mexican prison culture, if you will, that rape is just not accepted and not tolerated. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So
where I was at.
So within your group, you never saw it, never experienced it. In your 22 years, did you ever hear of that happening to any other prisoners?
Yeah. One time I heard something that sounded like that, and it was in the cell. It was a cell next to me, and at the same time, it's like they're fighting, but we can't really get involved in it because when something happens, it's a different race and so forth. So that can kick off a race riot, and for the most part, it's for that person to basically stand up for himself, because that's what prison is basically. It comes down to.
What happens if they don't stick up for themselves?
Well, if they don't stick up for themselves, in cases like that, both of them would be removed. It's like both of them would be assaulted and removed off the yard.
When you say removed?
Yeah, I know it sounds kind of like you just remove the emotions and look at them more as, but it's,
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. It's
But what do you mean removed?
Assaulted, stabbed, or beat up, or
Very hurt.
They would be leaving.
Could they possibly be murdered?
Yeah, it could
Potentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So pretty much, you have to defend yourself, or you're going to be a weak link and face worse abuse.
Yeah,
it's what you're saying. Okay.
It's sink or swim. I mean, it's in that terminology, or fight or flight.
Were you ever put in that situation where you had to prove yourself?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Happens to everybody. At one point, you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, for the most part, it all depends. I mean, for me, I was a gang member, so it's like sometimes this has nothing to do with me. It's just the fact that I was a part of a certain group.
Right.
So it's just like.
And the rules of that group.
So, yeah, well,
Yeah.
and what it is if someone has something against that group, it doesn't they don't necessarily have to go for that one person they have something against. It's because they know they're gonna have to fight the whole group, so sort of. So it's like I've been in fights when I was locked up, but for me, I never got sent to the infirmary. I grew up boxing and so forth. So violence was never like something foreign to me.
So that group that you belonged to in prison then gave you a form of protection, if you will. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You were a little bit more intimidating, or?
Well, it did, but at the same time, it's not. It's like everyone, every member of the group or gang and so forth, basically is a member for a reason. They're able to, I'm not promoting that. I'm just saying
Sure.
it's just in prison. It's like you're able to stand up for yourself and just not necessarily saying that you're gonna win because you can always be outnumbered. All kinds of things can happen, but
Sure.
you're gonna show you have heart. And that's what they see.
Okay. One thing that people talk a lot, when it comes to this subject, is how good of a job our prisons are doing in, reforming and educating prisoners and making sure that when they are released, that they're ready to go back into the world. The prison system definitely has its share of critics out there that feel that they're just doing a horrible job, reforming. How do you feel about that? You know a lot better than most of us.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's up to the individual. Like say for me, I was able to learn 6 trades as a plumber, a painter,
Wow.
machinist, engine machinist, mechanic, office specialist. I was able to become Microsoft certified. Took several self-help groups. Became a facilitator for Criminal Gang Members Anonymous, Celebrate Recovery. And it was just, I took numerous classes, and they're available to everybody. And for me, it was like it was just opportunity. I mean, because I'm there. I mean, all these different trades people pay thousands of dollars for out here just to go and learn and so forth at trade schools.
Yes.
It's free. So much stuff is offered. It's all up to the individual what they choose.
So it's up to that individual, if you will, to make those changes in their life.
Yeah, I mean, rehabilitation for me was there, but I had a strong a base for me, my family, and it was like I wanted to do something that was going to better myself. So I made a choice. They're all choices we make.
Well, that's wonderful. Good for you, for sure. So you had mentioned before, so yeah, your sentence, 16 to life. You ended up serving 22 years. Good chunk of time. How many times did you go up for parole? How many times were you denied for parole before it was finally granted?
I went up before the board 3 times. I was denied twice. My first time going in, it was Governor Schwarzenegger. That was in office, and he started, allowing those that served their time and so forth to be released. And actually, because what the parole board goes by is, it's called the nexus. As long as a nexus does not exist, as far as to a connection does not exist, as far as to the person that came in to the person that's about to be released. If you're still the same person, you're not going nowhere. If you're not trying to change or better yourself, you're not going nowhere. And at that time, when I first went to the board, I just got out of Corcoran SHU. I'd been in Pelican Bay SHU, first license of a child molester. And it was, I've already been had trouble. And I'm like starting to change and so forth. Show change. And I was denied the maximum of 5 years at that time. And then, but what they did was, because they saw something, and then he goes, in 3 years we'll do a review of your 5-year denial, and if you show improvement and so forth, we'll go ahead and turn that 5 into a 4. So they did that. By that time, I already got my trades in and other chronos. That's what they give you. And so the second time, the laws change, and they can deny you 5 years 10 years, 5, 7, 10, and 15. I think the minimum was, I think, no, excuse me, 3, 5, 7, 10, and 15. It denied me a minimum of 3 years. Because that was like a good sign for me. I was like, okay, at least I didn't get the 15 years denial.
True.
And
the
so-
bright side.
yeah.
Yes.
But I just kept doing what I was doing. And then on the third time, I went in with a private attorney, and it was,
You went into your parole hearing with an attorney? Oh, okay. Wonderful.
because they'll appoint one, but this time, you know, we were able to hire a private attorney this time.
I'll be honest, I didn't know that. I didn't know that that was something that you could do. And do you feel that that attorney helped you?
Oh, yes.
Yes, absolutely. Now, does the attorney do any arguing for you or kind of, you know, bring up certain points to them?
Well, yeah, well, all it really is, because, I mean, you have to answer everything yourself.
Okay.
But basically,
Seems fair.
everything you've done, it has to show for it. But what the attorney there for is just to make sure that you're not asked questions that are not supposed to be asked. Can object, and just like the different, you know, just to keep it legal, so for the most
Sure,
part.
sure.
You know, because
I think we could all agree that it should be
yeah, I mean it
in
is.
our legal
but-
system.
Yeah.
Let's explore